Hello. My topic this evening is exactly as the title says. Should you plan to become a polyglot? So to begin to analyze this phrase, let me, in good professorial fashion, break it down and word by word and talk about some of the things that are going on in that question. The main one being for people who are coming to my channel new because you saw my cat and you clicked on it and you just want to know what's going on here. What's a polyglot? In my conversation with my good friend and fellow polyglot, Richard Simcott, just a week or two ago, he mentioned that actually he did not know what the term polyglot meant until after he'd become a polyglot, and somebody said, that's what you are. And that made me reflect on the fact that, yes, I frequently meet people who are from outside this wider bubble of my normal viewership and people that go to polyglot conferences and the like. And out in the broader world, the term polyglot is not in most people's everyday vocabulary. So if you don't know what this means, a polyglot is somebody, it's a two-part Greek word. Poly means many, it's in several, 3, 4, 5, more. And glot is tongue or language. So polyglot is somebody who knows many languages. And a polyglot is, in my mind, is different from a multilingual person in that we couldn't ask this question. You can't say, should you plan to be multilingual? One becomes multilingual. You grow up bilingual if your mother speaks one language and your father speaks a different language, or if each of them speak a different language and you live in a country that speaks yet another language, you'll be trilingual. There are multilingual societies like Singapore, where you have Singapore, Switzerland, where you have 4 official languages. So multilingual is something that we can use to describe a society or somebody who grows up in a society or an environment like that, where you learn, you acquire multiple languages as you're growing up. In contrast to that, a polyglot, in my mind, it's an important distinction to make, is something that you could plan for. You don't necessarily need to do that, but you could plan to do it, because a polyglot is somebody who knows multiple languages because he or she has studied them or learned them instead of acquiring them from the environment, gotten them by learning them, by studying them a little bit later on in life. So that's what a polyglot means. And again, if you didn't know that term, that means you're a relatively new person here. Again, maybe you came to meet Merlin, my cat here, or maybe you are what I refer to often in the prefaces to my videos as a normal language learner. A normal language learner is somebody who's not obsessed with learning languages, doesn't really even really think about it for the most part. Life is interesting and full. You've got your job, you've got your family, you've got your hobbies, you have other things. Maybe learning a language is there on lists of things that you think about. Maybe that's my New Year's resolution, just like maybe writing a novel or climbing Mount Everest or swimming to Easter Island or something like that is on your list. It's not really on your event horizon until one day, bam, you're being transferred to Kenya. And so now you have to learn Swahili. And Swahili, until now, was maybe just sort of a vague word like polyglot was, but now Swahili is something that you need to learn. And you start looking around for how do you learn Swahili, and you find it's actually not a very commonly taught language. There might be some online classes or courses or teachers, but somehow they don't really match you or suit you, and you find these various apps, but they're not very in-depth, and you find that there are these books and courses for teaching yourself Swahili, and so now you need to engage in this activity. And since it's something that you need to do, it's been put on your event horizon, well, you'd like to do it well, you'd like to succeed. So that's, in my mind, is a normal learner, and you're welcome here. And the advice that we have to give, Merlin and I, should help you in the most part. But normal learners, I would say that one characteristic of normal learners is, in terms of experience with language learning, it's on what I would call the in horizon. They either have no experience with learning languages, or maybe it's a neutral experience. You studied a couple of years of Spanish in high school, the same way you studied a couple of years of history and algebra in high school. It was on the curriculum, and you did okay in the class, but you didn't learn a language from it. Or maybe you can call that a negative experience. Maybe you take that You say, hey, I studied a couple of years of Spanish. I got A's in it, and I should be able to speak the language, but I never learned how to actually use it. So you're frustrated by that negative experience. So normal learners are people that come to a channel like this looking for advice because you don't want to have that negative experience. You don't want to study and get nothing out of it. You want to succeed at it. And so, again, we're happy to help you, but we have to give you a warning that if we take a potentially negative and non-productive experience and instead make that fun and fruitful, then all of a sudden you might start to think, hey, well, now I learned that language. Now let me learn another language. Now let me learn, and you'll get this burning desire to learn more and more languages. You'll catch this condition that we call polyitis, and you'll find that you want to become a polyglot. And so then maybe this video will be pertinent and relevant to you. So I think that now that we've clarified what polyglot means, I think that the terms should you plan to become a polyglot, to become I think that doesn't need any parsing. But let's go to the should part. We can use the term should in a phrase like this. English isn't a tonal language the way Chinese is, but we can put tones into a word like should to show that we have very different meanings. And if I say, you should plan to become a polyglot, if I give it a nice, happy, rising, upbeat tone, then I'm going to try to emphasize some of the positive benefits that one might say that you could get from learning lots of languages. And these are things that if you do get the polyglot bug, polyitis, you get the desire to have this, these are some arguments that you're probably going to have in your repertoire because you're going to face from friends and family and acquaintances, people who are rather dubious about the value of spending so much time learning languages, learning lots of languages, and what do you get out of it? And so you could take, again, that you should learn languages to show that it's a global interconnected world, and if you know more languages, you'll have a better career and you'll be able to do more things and go to more places and understand more people. And all of this is true, but that's not the way that I'm using this term tonight. Should you plan to learn lots of languages? You could also give the term that word should, maybe we can give it a falling tone. You should learn. You should plan to become a polyglot. Obviously, if I'm doing that, I'm making it more of a moral imperative, saying that learning lots of languages is right and just. It is truly right and just to develop your mind, to develop your human potential, to learn things that maybe you say, well, if I'd grown up in a multilingual society, I'd know lots of languages, but I didn't. So can I provide by my own intelligence and work what I could have gotten if I'd grown up in Lebanon or someplace? So the idea of somehow it being a moral imperative or something that it would be a way to activate or fulfill your full human potential to learn lots of languages, I think this is an argument that you could also make. This would be a much harder sell to put out to the world as a whole. I don't know that you'd want to do that, but you'd want to turn this in on yourself if you have this polyglot bug, because when you're trying to keep up the learning, becoming a polyglot is a long, hard slog, and you need to keep up your motivation. And the more reasons you have, the more motives you have for wanting to become a polyglot will put you into good stead. So you could make some sort of arguments about the sort of the moral imperative, the rightness and the justness of learning lots of languages. But that's not what I want to talk about tonight either. What I want to talk about tonight is the tying together of the word should with the word plan. That's the real crux of the matter that I want to talk about, is should you plan to become a polyglot? So let's presume that you are committed to being a polyglot. It's something you want. It's something you desire. It's something that you have as your goal. And so the question is, should you plan for it? Should you make a systematic progress chart for the next 5 or 10 years about what you're going to do and how you're going to go about doing it? That's the question. That's things that people write to me about, asking about, provide a plan like this. And my answer as to whether or not you should do it really depends on your personality. I think that there are some people who should not plan for it. I think that the kind of people who should not plan for it are people who, to go into sort of basic dichotomy of different types of human personalities, to use William James's from the varieties of religious experience. If you're healthy-minded, if you're optimistic, if you're outgoing, if you are gregarious and you like to talk to people and go to places and you see life as a great big fun adventure, that you're willing to sort of roll with the punches and take what comes to you and move this opportunity up and do the next thing as opportunities present themselves to you, then I think that you are fine. Not necessarily planning to become a polyglot, but just being open to all the opportunities that are out there to learn languages and use them and interact with people, particularly if your main goal is to talk to people and travel and do things. So to the degree that you're a person like that, I think that not only do you not need to make a plan, but making a plan, which might seem very logical, could actually backfire upon you. It could become sort of burdensome or demotivating if you make a very ambitious plan and then you're not acting on it, and you have all these things that you've sort of told yourself that you should do or you want to do, and you see that you're not doing them and you feel like you have to. And there are certain personalities for whom I think that making the kind of plan that I'm going to talk more about now is probably not the wisest course. And as I said, it's plenty of people out there, plenty of polyglots. If you go to the Polyglot Conference, you meet lots of people who, I don't want to say stumbled into it, but just went logical step from logical step, going from being a normal learner to enjoying learning one language, learning another language, learning more, taking the opportunities, and then, getting voila, you have half a dozen languages under your belt. So that kind of person, if you're that kind of person, if you are happy listening to me, I'm happy talking to you, but I'll be the first to say that now one of the neatest things about our age, YouTube, Polyglot, stuff like that, is that there are plenty of people who can give you different kinds of advice and different types of experience that they've had. And if you're this kind of outgoing, optimistic, interactive kind of person that can do well without a plan, there are probably other people, other polyglots, who can give you advice that's probably better suited to you than the advice that I can give. So again, you're welcome to stay if you're that kind of person, but I'm kind of here speaking to the kind of person for whom I would say that you asked that question, should you plan to become a polyglot? If you're the other kind of personality, again, William James calls us sick souls. I don't like that term, obviously, but it means people who are kind of more introspective, more kind of on the pessimistic side, if you can say, it's, optimistic versus pessimistic, kind of people who are certainly more studious, more scholarly inclined, sort of this kind of personality, then I think you would do very, very well to have a systematic study plan. Becoming a polyglot is a lifelong task. It's a long, hard slog. And the fact of the matter is that there are some languages that it makes sense to learn before you learn other languages. There are some languages that will help you learn other languages more. There are languages that the experience of learning them will just make it easier to learn other languages. There are some that are actual stepping stones. There are some that have better resources so that you can learn them more easily, and then you can go on and learn others. So if you would like to have a sort of an idea of, well, what's a logical sequence for me to try to achieve my goals, if you have an idea of, well, how am I going to need to use my time? I know that I can get started, just with 15-minute whole time plots, but I know that to develop a language to a meaningful thing, I need to put hours into it. And there are only so many hours in a day. How can I portion up my time? If I learn languages in sequence, then how do I put energy into one language without forgetting the other language? If I learn languages simultaneously, how do I apportion my time? How do I not mix them up? All of these are aspects that can go into this sort of idea of a systematic study plan, of a 5 or a 10-year plan of what you want to achieve. And obviously, when you have a plan, if you can stick to it, if it's a reasonable plan, you're more likely to achieve more. You're less likely to spin your wheels and do other things that are sort of non-productive towards these goals. Plans should always be open to revision and just knowledge that they can change drastically. Maybe you're starting out and you are maybe you're of a Jewish background, and so you've got Hebrew on your list because you want to explore your spiritual heritage. And that's fine in your 5-year plan now, but you don't know that 6 or 7 years down the line, life throws us curveballs. You're going to convert to Theravada Buddhism and spend the rest of your life at a monastery in Thailand. And so Thai is going to need to come in where it's totally not on your event horizon. Now, this is stuff, plans need to be revised and taken into consideration. But yes, if you are of a basic scholarly disposition, and you would like to say, I would like to become a polyglot. I would like to know 6 or 8 or 10 languages in 6 or 8 or 10 years' time, then a good study plan would be a very good thing for you to have. So how can you get one of these? Well, one way, you can ask me, and I will be happy to give you one in a specific way, and that is many long years ago, some of you might be familiar with a forum called How to Learn Any Language, in which people would write me letters like that saying, I have a 5-year study plan. These are the languages I'd like to learn. This is who I am now. This is where I'm going. How should I go about it? What material should I use? And what sequence should I use? And I was very happy to answer those. And I've been very happy over the years when I go to Polyglot conferences now, when people come up to me and say, that material that you wrote back then, now this is going on 20 years ago, is really sort of a valuable resource to me. And I've always enjoyed writing letters like that. And people somehow track me down and send me individual requests for things like this. And I'm always inclined to answer these. But when it's from somebody that I don't know, and I've had the experience now a couple of times, if I write, spend a couple of hours making up a response, and maybe I'll never hear back from the person. I don't know how they're doing with it or whatnot, and it's just benefiting one person. I don't even know if it's benefiting them, whereas this forum really did. So long and short of it is, I'm very happy to announce that my new website is at long last live. And one of the features of it is a question and answer page where you can ask other types of questions too, but in particular, advice for, say, a systematic study plan. And I will answer it in this page where, unlike that forum where the answers got kind of lost in various threads, this will stay systematically organized and indexed by things like systematic study sequences, 5-year plans, 10-year plans, other languages involved. And so you can go to my site and you can look for these kind of plans. If you go there now, you can find 5 or 6 plans that just reading through them might help you and give you an idea of what kind of plan you might want to make. And if you would like to write me a nice, polite letter in the format that is suggested there and say, this is who I am, this is where I want to go, this is what I want to achieve, can we make a plan for this? I'll be happy to answer that and provide that for you, and hope that that is useful and valuable to you, the way that I hope that this video and information was useful and valuable to you. So thank you for listening, and go check out my site, read through some of those other requests, and if you feel like submitting one to me, please do. Thank you very much, and I'll talk to you again next week.